So I actually thought it was NFL.com that put these out because I'm pretty sure I got an alert on my phone, but I guess it wasn't because I couldn't find them again. Quarter season awards. We are quarter way through the season with the exception of two teams. So these are coming from, I think it's like NFL spinoff or something like that, and the comeback are a couple of websites that put these out. So I figured we could look over them. So for offensive rookie of the year, the NFL something site has Joe Burrow, while the comeback has James Robinson. Who do you think should get that?
Um, I'm obviously going to vote for James Robinson because I don't think anybody expected that, but he's honestly a really good back. And he does not make any Jacksonville Jaguar fan miss Leonard Fournette at all. I think he's way better than anybody projected. And it's kind of funny that Dave Caldwell's best rookie is one he didn't even draft. He's undrafted. But I think it always favors the quarterbacks, and Joe Burrow has been lighting up the league. So I still think Joe Burrow edges him out just for his position of play, and he's been putting up really.
Yeah, it's hard to argue against Joe Burrow. You think about it, he probably should have won two more games at least. And but yeah, I do agree that James Robinson has been putting numbers up almost kind of under the radar, like nobody even really knows about him, and he's been performing at a top running back level, especially if Jacksonville would kind of feed him the ball more. They seem to be using him sparingly, and kind of start to wonder why. But yeah, it's hard to argue against Joe Burrow. Although I think we've seen good performance from the receivers that have come into the league. Uh, do you think any of them would even stand a chance?
Yeah, I could see them sneaking in there, but I just feel like these always go to the higher production players, and running backs and quarterbacks produce more than wide receivers because they get the ball in their hands more. Running backs can catch out of the backfield. Obviously, quarterback touches the ball every single play. So I think those awards always go to those guys, unless the receiver puts up absurd numbers. But yeah, I see it going Joe Burrow, at least
And
quarter way in the season.
yeah, and on the other side, uh, they have Chase Young, and the comeback has Tampa Bay safety Antoine Winfield Jr. We both predicted Chase Young at the beginning of the year. Do you still stand with that?
Yeah, he's been injured, so it's hard to put him there. But honestly, I haven't watched enough of Antoine Winfield Jr. to even make really an assessment on it. But I guess I'd say still stick with Chase Young because for the first 2 weeks he's played really well. Um, and I think when he comes back from injury, he'll continue to play well. So for the first 4 weeks, yeah, I could see that. But honestly, I haven't watched much Antoine Winfield Jr. to really, say he's been playing well or not.
Uh, I've seen some highlights, but yeah, like you said, not really enough. Honestly, I haven't really seen any sort of rookie that kind of jumps out on the
Yeah,
defensive side.
yeah. So far, it hasn't really seemed to be that way.
So on to the coach of the year. We got Sean McDermott or Kyle Shanahan. Would you say those guys are your front runners?
Sean McDermott, I would go with him. I think he has the Bills at 4-0, even though they haven't played the best competition. They're a well disciplined team, really well coached team, and yeah, I think right now he's the better coach in the NFL.
Yeah. Honestly, that Kyle Shanahan, I mean, considering the fact that he's coaching a team of backups to some wins is impressive, but I don't know that I could actually put him as. I would put a few other coaches ahead of him.
Yeah, if Kyle Shanahan makes it to the playoffs with this squad, and they're able to win a lot of games with these like backups and JV team, then he'll definitely win Coach of the Year. But I just don't see that happening. Like that's
It,
just they lost a lot of talent.
well, I mean, he's getting Jimmy Garoppolo back next week, and I think Raheem Mostert's coming back soon too. He did lose two huge defensive linemen for the whole season, but I think playoffs are still within reach. I wouldn't say that's too absurd for them to make the playoffs, especially considering there's a seventh seed now.
Right, but I think it's more about the division. Like they have to play the Seahawks, Rams, and Cardinals. So I think that's where, to me, is where they'll lose their games, and it might damage their season.
Would you put any other coaches up there at least to? Well, I agree with you that Sean McDermott's done the best job so far. Um, and you can tell just when you watch the Buffalo offense play, it's kind of a team effort, and they're just doing whatever they want. Um, would you put any other coaches up there with him, or is he kind of?
I would put maybe the Packers coach, Matt LaFleur. Um, Even though he has Aaron Rodgers playing at an all-time level, I wouldn't say all-time level, but he's playing an incredible start to the season. I could see him being up there, even though he has some pieces, things like that. He's still doing really well. So I would put him in that discussion right now.
Yeah, I mean Andy Reid's my dude, so I gotta say he's up there. I would probably put him at number two, but yeah, LaFleur is definitely. It almost seems though as this is more Aaron Rodgers' team, and LaFleur's just benefiting from it rather than
Yeah,
LaFleur is kind of running things.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers even came out. I don't know if it was a joke or not, but says he pretends he doesn't hear the call and calls his own, play and stuff like that. I don't know if that was a shot at Matt LaFleur to be like, "You're a piece of shit." No, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely Aaron Rodgers' team. He's definitely still a leader of that team, and he's going to be until he's not producing or until he's out of the league.
When I think the media kind of blew that out of proportion because when he was asked like, "Have you ever in your career done that?" And he was like, "Yeah, maybe two or three times I've done it." And all of a
Okay.
sudden they're like, "Oh yeah, I decided that my headset's out." So I think
Okay.
it's a little,
It was paraphrasing by the media.
yeah, of course.
Okay.
So I think the next one's kind of almost unanimous for comeback player of the year. Cam Newton kind of went into New England and took over, and he's been killing it. Aside from the one loss in Seattle, which pretty much came down in the last play, and you can see how valuable he is to the team, as witnessed last night. New England wasn't able to replace him with Stidham or Hoyer. So you agree on that one?
Yeah, definitely Cam Newton, just considering his offseason, not getting signed, and then signing for the veteran minimum, and no one really wanted him except the Patriots, and even the Patriots didn't really want him till the end until they somehow got him for the veteran minimum. And it's funny that when you watch Hoyer and Stidham play, you're almost like, wait, they're trying to pretend there was a QB competition in the offseason? Like, there's no way. But I think a lot of that had to do with because I think Cam Newton tested positive on Saturday. So they probably prepared a whole game plan for Cam Newton to play the Chiefs. And then all of a sudden he's out. So they had like a day or two to prepare for the backup quarterback. So I think a lot of that had to do with their play. But still, they're nowhere near the level Cam Newton is. And Cam Newton is definitely taking that team to a lot more wins than Stidham and Hoyer would. So he's elevating that team. So I could see him being the comeback player of the year for sure.
How about offensive player of the year? NFL spin has Josh Allen, while the comeback has Russell Wilson. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I would put Josh Allen here because I got Russell Wilson at MVP right now. Um, so I got Russell Wilson, or I would put Josh Allen offensive player of the year through the first 4 weeks. His numbers just kind of speak for themselves, and they're sitting at 4-0. So if again, I expect it to possibly drop down when he starts getting tested more, like I talked earlier. But right now, through the first 4 weeks, he's been playing really good. So I could see that's definitely justified.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the only people really giving him competition are Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers, and I personally I would probably put Aaron Rodgers above that just because he's been tearing it up and he really doesn't have the offensive weapons that Josh Allen does. But I wouldn't be able to disagree with you if you said Josh Allen.
Yeah.
His numbers do speak for themselves. Defensive player of the year, it's almost unanimous for Myles Garrett. His name's really coming up quite a bit. Do you agree on that?
Um, It's tough, but I mean, I haven't watched a lot of Browns to, I guess, kind of make up something. I think he's leading the league with sacks with Zadarius Smith from the Green Bay Packers. So part of me wants to go with Zadarius Smith because he's a little more versatile, and truth be told, I've watched him play more, so he jumps out to me more. But I mean, Myles Garrett has been playing really well, so I could see that being. I could see him winning like through the first 4 weeks right now. But I'm gonna go with Zadarius Smith just because I like him better, I guess.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to pick. There's really not anybody that really jumps out. For some reason, I want to pick Marlon Humphrey. I don't know why. It might be just because I watched like highlight videos or something, but for some reason, Marlon Humphrey jumps out at me. But I can't remember if it was just because he had a great year last year. But yeah, as you mentioned, Myles Garrett's really up there. It's Darius Smith. Yeah. And then MVP, it's almost unanimous. Russell Wilson. Part of me almost feels like he's in the MVP talk because he's never been in the MVP talk before. Well, he's never gotten that vote, or he's is in the MVP talk more for not getting that vote than he is for his performance. But would you put him up there, or do you think one of the other QBs can take it?
Yeah, I definitely put him up there right now for what he's doing with that Seattle defense or Seattle offense when their defense isn't the Legion of Boom anymore. Like you said, he's always kind of been snubbed of the MVP talk, but this year he's been incredible, and I think he's going to continue that too. I don't think it's very like a fluke or anything. So, yeah, to me right now he's the MVP. I would say it's tough because you can make a case really for a lot of people up there, but and it could be because, like you said, he's constantly being snubbed, so everyone's like, no, no, I'm putting Russell Wilson this year. That's kind of why I feel like I'm putting him there, to be honest, because I'm like he keeps getting shitted on. So
Yeah.
I'll give him my vote as if it matters. So
Yeah. I mean, I predicted he would be MVP this year, and I'm sticking to it. There have been great performances, especially offensively. Um, but yeah, it's hard to go against him. Seeing what he's doing up there, seeing how he's just almost recklessly just destroying teams. Um, I know this wasn't. I mean, these aren't really quarter of the year awards, but who do you think is the most overrated player or team?
ooh, I'd have to think about that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can go first. I think I would have to go with the Dallas Cowboys. It almost seems like they're always kind of being talked about, even though they're never doing anything relevant. So I would say Cowboys. In the top tier, I still feel like the Steelers are not worthy of all the praise. I don't. Maybe it's just because I haven't seen too much of them. Their defense is good. I mean, they have individual defenders who are really getting pressures on quarterbacks. But I think if I looked overall, I would probably say Cowboys or maybe the Bears. I think the Bears are kind of being praised for being 3-0 up until this week, and they really haven't struck me as a team that should be undefeated.
well, I mean, they lost to the Colts, so they're not undefeated anymore. But
Right. I'm just saying, up until this week,
okay.
everybody's like, oh, they're undefeated. Mitch Trubisky's undefeated. I'm like, they probably shouldn't be.
Yeah, they definitely shouldn't be. I feel like a lot of analysts and stuff like that. I think everyone knew it was kind of a fluke, unless you're a fan of Chicago. Um, yeah, I mean, I could definitely see Pittsburgh being up there overrated because they really haven't beat anyone that jumps out on the page at all. So yeah, and then definitely the Cowboys. I mean, the Cowboys, like you said, they're always talking to the national media. They're got Mike McCarthy. They're turning the corner. All this and that. They have all this talent on their team. They have a lot of injuries on the O line. Dak Prescott's putting a lot of numbers up and keeping them in games, but they're just, yeah, they're definitely a little overrated. I think even going into the season, I was like, they'll probably win that division, but it wasn't really because they were that much better than anyone, but more so the division's not that good.
Right. Yeah, I mean, are they? No, the Eagles are leading that division with a 1-2-1 record.
Yeah, technically right now,
So,
yeah. So
yeah. What about on the other side? Do you think there's any teams that are underrated or any players that kind of are falling under the radar that you think should really be getting some praise?
yeah, I mean, we talked about it a little earlier, but I'm gonna shout out James Robinson for an offensive, um, for a rookie, undrafted rookie to come in and take over for Leonard Fournette, who everyone was freaking out about. They're cutting the best player on the team, this and that. He's honestly through the first 4 weeks has played a shit ton better than Leonard Fournette did. He has really good vision. He makes people miss in the backfield, which I think separates good backs from great backs. The ability to make something happen when it's not there, constantly falling forward. I think right now he's under the radar because he plays for Jacksonville and they're losing a lot, and no one really watches them play. But to me, James Robinson has been a breath of fresh air as a Jaguars fan, and I think he is a lot better than people really notice in the media and stuff. So I'm gonna go with James Robinson as underrated.
Yeah, I would agree. And another rookie on their team, Laviska Shenault, too. I don't think anybody really knows about him, but he's putting up really good numbers, too, and kind of being utilized as more of an offensive weapon than a pure wide receiver. But when does go out for, running routes, he's still doing a really good job. Um, so I would put him in there. I liked what I saw from Justin Jefferson, too, up in Minnesota. I think he's going to fit that scheme very well, so long as they can kind of put it all together and, string some wins together. I'm not really sure what they're doing up there. I think Kirk Cousins is just scaring everybody.
Yeah, he put way too much intensity before the season started. So I don't think their match is matching his intensity yet. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, he kind of set that bar too high.
Yeah, everyone's like,
they can't really get shit. Yeah. I'm not ready to die yet.
It's like, dude, what are you, nuts? And he had that look in his eyes,
Yeah,
so,
that Adam Gase look?
Yeah, the Adam Gase look, or you like that look or whatever. So, yeah, I just don't think their match has intensity right
now. Speaking of intensity, a lot of offensive firepower has been going on. Do you think that's just due to the lack of a preseason on defense, or do you think offenses have kind of figured something out that they didn't before? Is maybe some rule changes in their favor? Or?
Yeah, it's hard to tell. It's just across the league, there's just been so many shootouts. And I'm going to chalk it up to right now that the lack of preseason is not allowing the teams to gel together on the defensive side of ball. Because when it comes to defense, a lot of it is like you're filling your gaps, your assignments, and being disciplined versus like creativity, how it is on the offensive side. So offenses can be as creative as it gets, but on the defensive side of the ball, you're kind of limited with what you can do scheme-wise because you have to cover the field. How can you do that in like 15 different ways? It's a lot tougher. So I think the lack of preseason didn't allow either to add in some, mixes and coverage schemes and stuff like that some teams probably would have tried out in preseason. So I'm gonna chalk it up to kind of lack of preseason now allowing the defenses to gel together. Before I'm gonna say the offenses are just at an all-time high right now.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think just the lack of kind of the teams coming together, especially for teams that have gotten new pieces in, and defenders just not being comfortable with what other defenders are doing on the field. And coaches, I guess, being more reluctant to install different packages for that reason. I think they have to play more basic defense almost, which is working out in the offense's favor because the offense can get a lot more creative, like you said. Thank you for listening in to this clip of the Moose Bros podcast. If you enjoyed this, please like, comment below, and subscribe to this channel to see more clips just like this one. If you want to listen to the whole podcast, you can find us at Spotify or Apple Podcasts under Moose Bros Sports.